Pride of Australia, fans gather for our Olympic Night of Nights. The opening ceremony just 1 hour away.
It's got to be Betty Cupford.
And weaving its magic, a procession of heroes carries the flame in a spellbinding torch relay finale.
7 News with David Johnston and Anne Fullwood. 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Free fall. The Australian dollar continues to plummet. Fatal accident probe calls to make Victorian roads safer. And in a spin, Shane Warne in India as we've never seen him before.
Put it on your shoulder.
Good evening. Also tonight, taking a break, our golden girl of the track slows down.
Medal misery. Another Olympian falls victim to callous feet.
They mean a lot more to me than they would to them.
Plus, staying alert, the drowning death of a 7-year-old in the backyard pool prompts a tough new warning.
And it really emphasises the message for parents, don't take your eyes off your children.
And up and at 'em, no holds barred in the Boxing Day doorbuster shopping frenzy. Good evening, and first, Olympians heart...
The 4:30 News with David Johnston.
Good afternoon. In this bulletin, the death toll from the tsunami disaster.
One man dead after a four-wheel drive ploughs into a crowded market. A terrifying end to a 21st birthday party when a balcony gives way. Thrills, spills and a swag of gold on the last day of the Games. And the British PM in Melbourne to catch up with an old ally.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Jennifer Kite.
Good evening. A sunny day at the top.
On 7.
A warning for women as a violent attacker strikes in Melbourne's east. Hero firefighters tell how they saved their mate from a Yarraville inferno. The emotional homecoming for an Aussie digger killed in Afghanistan. And disappointment for Casey Stoner as thousands race to Phillip Island.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Rebecca Madden.
Real grieving families, the new weapon in the fight to reduce the road toll. Digging deep now, the Port of Melbourne's going even further with bay dredging. Western suburbs residents take on truckies in a battle for the streets. And taking a ride with the minister who cops the blame when public transport goes wrong.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. For the first time, authorities are using the pain and tears of real grieving families in the fight to... On the move, Ballarat's multi-million-dollar bid to host the historic Stall Gift. More railway station violence. A bashed victim speaks out. A dying Nilex workers fight for a fair go to save his family. And women told to grin and bear it when it comes to childbirth. Good evening. First tonight, an urgent inquiry is now...
Early drama as the weather causes problems at the Grand Prix. Police despair at a string of accidents that sent Victoria's road toll soaring. Callous thieves deal another blow to the grieving family of La Paqueta founder Rocky Pantelio. And Collingwood's emphatic round one statement.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. The Australian Grand Prix is under...
Ward violence on the rise. The victim of a hospital stabbing speaks out. Images that will shock Melburnians. Why teenagers are running scared. The Facebook campaign to find a mate. And how this heritage-listed eyesore is giving everyone a headache.
This is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. There are serious concerns about...
Our heroes, tributes for 3 murdered diggers as the hunt for their Afghan killer intensifies. 7 exclusive Mick Malthouse tells the latest on the Carlton coaching job. First on 7, our cameras go on board the monster trawler threatening Victoria's fishing grounds. Also, a grieving family's plea as police crack down on Melbourne's worst hoon drivers. Plus, who plays who and where? We tell you what's happening in the first week of the footy finals.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Jennifer Kite.
Good evening. The three
Bikie brothers hand themselves in over a wild shopping centre brawl. Telstra wields the axe, slashing more than 1,000 jobs. Shoppers dodge an out-of-control elderly driver in Bentley. Also, Dockers fans flood into Melbourne dreaming of grand final glory. And the Cats go over the top as they celebrate Wacky Wednesday.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. 2 men with bikie links. Tonight, a great-grandmother taken hostage in a violent carjacking tells of her ride with a gunman.
I was a goner. Really, I thought he was going to shoot me.
A killer who stabbed a couple to death at their home, jailed for 32 years. A heartfelt plea from the family of a student bashed to death.
Stop the violence. It's got to stop.
Also, the moment a man came at police in a frenzied axe attack. And patients alive after world-first Australian transplants using hearts from the dead.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. An 84. Tonight, a father armed with a machete holds his young family hostage. A motorist fights for life after a brutal road rage carjacking. A mum's relief as her son is found after a freezing night lost in the bush. Also, Greece rejects an economic bailout, sending Australian shares into a $30 billion tailspin. Panic as a pram rolls onto tracks in front of a freight train. And the Royals enjoy a family day out for Princess Charlotte's christening.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
On 7 News tonight, the frightening moment a P-plater careered out of control before hitting a pole and dying in a horror high-speed smash. Also, the mystery of a mum thought to have been picked out at random and murdered in her own home. No charges for protesters who perched themselves on the Arts Centre spire and kept police tied up for hours. A superannuation tax hike as the Treasurer moves to fix Australia's budget mess. Celebrity chef Pete Evans hits back at claims the paleo diet can make you fat. And how Melbourne's planning to handle 500,000 visitors for this weekend's White Nights.
Live from our Melbourne headquarters, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. The last seconds of a teenage driver's...
Tonight, a family and community mourns the little boy killed in a Berwick car park. A boy dies 5 days after falling from a Rye Carnival ride. A breakthrough day in Neil Danaher's race to find a cure for motor neurone disease. The American Vice President talks North Korea during his visit to Australia. And Bob Murphy celebrates his 300th game with a comeback win.
Live from our Melbourne headquarters, this is 7 News with Jennifer Kite.
Tonight, dozens of guns stolen as an organised gang pulls off a daring robbery. Suspects arrested after an armed bandit was shot and killed by police. Households still in the dark after being left to swelter in mass blackouts across Melbourne. Claims a musician was murdered before his body was found in a burnt-out house. The new mum happy she followed her heart after being told to expect the worst. And what's next for Roger Federer after that historic Australian Open win?
Live from our Melbourne headquarters, this is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. An arsenal of weapons including
to school at last, but worries about hitting lockdown targets. How the Chadstone cluster has spread across Melbourne and into regional towns. COVID-positive Donald Trump leaves hospital to thank supporters. The Vatican facing a scandal with claims of bribery and corruption in a George Pell plot. And turmoil and heartache for the Saints as 2 stars leave the hub.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. Millions of Australians.
Tonight, an urgent vaccine investigation underway after a Melbourne man is admitted to hospital with blood clots. Plus, Victoria's hotel quarantine program scaled back just days before it's due to restart. Melburnians hit the road for Easter as Good Friday traditions return. An ugly footy fan altercation sparks an AFL investigation. And digging deep for the kids as the Good Friday appeal eyes a new record.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor starts now.